Unsouled is a martial arts fantasy epic written by Will White and published in 2016. It is the first book in the renowned Cradle series, which has dominated Kindle's bestseller list for fantasy books over the past few years. The story follows Wei Linden, a young man living in the Sacred Valley who was branded as a child as Unsouled, meaning that he is forbidden from learning the sacred magical arts of his clan. In spite of this, Linden strives against societal stigmas to forge his own path and become one of the greatest sacred arts masters in the world. Cradle is a series that has been on my radar for some time, as it is very popular right now and is often talked about on BookTube. With the recent release of the final book in the Cradle series, all of the previous books in the series were briefly made free on Kindle. Being unable to say no to free books, I went ahead and picked them all up. I knew next to nothing about this series going into it, and I have to say I have been pleasantly surprised. So here are my thoughts on Unsouled. Starting off with the positives, one of my favorite aspects of this book is its connection to East Asian culture and media. The world of Cradle draws heavily from Chinese mythology, with clear parallels to classic myths like Journey to the West. The family dynamics, cultural norms, and fantastical elements all are inspired in a way that feels like a love letter to East Asian culture as a whole. Another strength of this book is its premise and how it relates to the protagonist. Many people have described this series as being akin to shonen anime like Dragon Ball Z or Naruto, and after finishing Unsouled, I can definitely see why. It has a protagonist who starts off weak and shunned by everyone around him, who has to train to become the most powerful person he can possibly be. Linden is a sympathetic underdog protagonist who, from the very beginning, I was rooting for and wanting to succeed. His rocky relationship with his family and status as an outcast made me feel for him in a very personal way that I don't always feel with fantasy protagonists. Setting up Linden as the weakest of the weak also makes it that much more satisfying when he uses his wits and cunning to defeat those much more powerful than him. This also sets up some great expectations for the future installments in the series, once it is revealed to the reader what Linden will have to face in the future. Without spoiling anything, this book has one of the best plot twists that I have experienced in a long time. It completely changed the direction I thought the book was going, and subverted my expectations in the best way possible. The book also has a unique magic system that utilizes the progression fantasy subgenre to great effect. Progression fantasy is fantasy that is based around the main characters having to improve their abilities and advance to greater stages of power. It's similar to the systems of leveling up that role-playing games like Final Fantasy use. I think this type of power progression sets up for some unique conflicts that keep the book from falling into typical fantasy tropes. I know that there are many people who do not like progression fantasy because it feels too much like a video game. However, in Unsouled, Will White uses this system in a way that keeps the plot moving at a steady pace and makes the achievements of the characters feel that much more rewarding. In terms of the negatives, my only major critique is that the third act of this book drags out a bit. The first 2/3 of the book are solid, and the revelation midway through the book is fantastic. However, after this revelation, the final battle of this book feels largely unrelated to the events of the previous chapters. I would also say that the secondary POV in this book was a bit confusing to me and not as interesting as Linden's perspective. The other POV introduced a lot of cosmic elements into the story that I anticipate will be fleshed out as the series progresses, but in this book they were a bit jarring and distracting from the main narrative. In conclusion, Unsouled is a great book that really caught me off guard with its premise and plot. I love its Chinese and Japanese roots, and the way it implements its magic system to create unique problems for the heroes to face. It also has a great underdog protagonist that you love to root for and want to see succeed. It has some confusing elements and issues in its third act, but overall it is a great start to what seems to be a promising series. Therefore, I'm going to give Unsouled 4 out of 5 stars. Stay tuned to my channel as I dive into the next book, Soulsmith, and I hope you join me as I read my way through the rest of the Cradle series. I hope you all have enjoyed this review. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and comment down below on your own thoughts on Unsouled and the rest of the Cradle series. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.